The avoidant person operates from a psychological framework where traditional expressions of love trigger fear and withdrawal rather than warmth and connection. Their nervous system, conditioned through early experiences of inconsistent care or emotional neglect, interprets affection and devotion as threats to autonomy rather than gifts to be cherished. However, beneath their defensive detachment lies a set of profound needs that supersede their desire for conventional romantic love. These needs, when met, create the conditions for genuine attachment to form, where traditional expressions of affection consistently fail. Freedom without abandonment. The avoidant person craves the paradoxical experience of complete freedom to withdraw, pursue independence, and maintain autonomy, while simultaneously knowing someone remains steadily present without punishing their need for space. They need partners who can hold connection across distance, who neither cling when they retreat nor disappear entirely when they pull away. This delicate balance between presence and non-interference addresses their core wound more powerfully than declarations of love ever could. They need evidence that their withdrawal will not trigger abandonment or emotional manipulation designed to pull them back through guilt. The security of knowing someone will be there when they return from their necessary periods of solitude provides psychological safety that passionate love cannot offer. This freedom without consequence allows them to explore intimacy at their own pace without the panic that typically accompanies emotional closeness. When someone demonstrates the capacity to maintain steady regard while respecting their need for distance, it creates attachment more profound than romantic gestures or emotional intensity. Understanding without pressure to change. The avoidant person desperately needs someone who comprehends their defensive patterns as protective mechanisms formed through painful experiences rather than as character flaws requiring immediate correction. They crave compassionate witnessing of their struggles with vulnerability and intimacy without accompanying demands for rapid transformation or emotional availability they cannot yet provide. This understanding without agenda creates safety that professions of love consistently fail to generate. They need partners who recognize their emotional limitations stem from wounds rather than malice, while simultaneously maintaining enough self-respect to not enable destructive patterns indefinitely. The experience of being truly seen in their complexity without facing ultimatums about change addresses their fundamental fear of being unacceptable as they currently are. This acceptance does not mean tolerating poor treatment, but rather acknowledging their humanity while maintaining appropriate boundaries. When someone demonstrates this nuanced understanding, it penetrates defenses that declarations of devotion only strengthen. Respect for their autonomy and boundaries. The avoidant person needs partners who honor their stated boundaries and need for independence without interpreting these requirements as personal rejection or lack of care. They crave relationships where their autonomy is respected as fundamental right, rather than negotiated privilege requiring justification. This respect for their self-determined limits proves more valuable than emotional availability or romantic gestures that feel suffocating, regardless of loving intention. They need evidence that their need for time alone, separate friendships, and personal space will be honored without resentment or passive-aggressive punishment. The experience of having boundaries respected rather than constantly challenged creates trust that loving words cannot establish. When someone demonstrates through consistent action that they value the avoidant person's autonomy as much as connection itself, it builds foundation for sustainable attachment that traditional romance consistently undermines through its implicit demands for constant togetherness, emotional stability that does not depend on them. The avoidant person needs partners whose emotional well-being and life satisfaction exist independently of their presence, attention, or validation. They crave relationships with people who maintain robust happiness through their own friendships, interests, and internal resources rather than depending on the avoidant person as primary source of meaning. This self-sufficiency addresses their terror of being responsible for someone else's emotional state more effectively than any declaration of love.